The great doors of the Galactic Council chamber slid open with a heavy sound. Ambassador Zexter rushed inside. His scales were darker than usual, a sign of fear in his species. He carried a datapad that glowed red. Red meant urgent. Red meant danger. The council chamber was massive. It could hold representatives from 200 different alien species. Today, almost every seat was filled. The council met once every month to discuss trade agreements and small disputes between worlds. This was supposed to be a normal, boring meeting, but nothing about today would be normal. Zexter's claws clicked against the metal floor as he walked to the center platform. Every eye, stalk, and sensor turned toward him. The room grew quiet. Council member Zexter said, his voice shaking slightly, "I have received an emergency transmission. The Krell Empire has declared war." A few ambassadors shifted in their seats.
Yes.
The Krell were known for being aggressive. They had conquered 12 star systems in the last century. But they usually picked fights with small, weak colonies. This was not surprising news. Council leader Vorn waved one of his tentacles in a dismissive gesture. "Let me guess. They are invading another mining colony? This does not require an emergency session." Zexter's scales turned even darker. Almost black now. No council leader. The Krell are not attacking a mining colony. He pressed a button on his datapad. A holographic image appeared above the center platform. It showed a small blue and green planet. A planet with one large moon. A planet that most council members recognized immediately. "They are attacking Earth," Zexter said quietly. For 3 seconds, the chamber was completely silent. Then it erupted in laughter. Ambassador Vorn laughed so hard his tentacles shook. The representative from the Hive Collective made a chittering sound that meant amusement in their language. Even the usually serious delegates from the core worlds smiled. "The humans," someone shouted from the back. "The Krell are attacking the humans." More laughter filled the chamber. Zexter did not laugh. He stood perfectly still, watching the other ambassadors mock the situation. Ambassador Jixala, a large creature with 4 arms, wiped tears from her eyes. "This is wonderful. The mighty Krell Empire is going to crush a species that just learned how to build faster than light. Engines 50 years ago. How brave of them." "I heard humans still use chemical rockets for some of their ships," another ambassador added. "Can you imagine? Chemical rockets in the age of quantum drives?" "Their weapons are decades behind ours," Vorn said, still chuckling. "Their shields are weak. Their military is small. The Krell will conquer Earth in less than a week, maybe less than 3 days." Zexter's tail twitched. An angry gesture. "You do not understand. This is not funny." "This is a massacre waiting to happen," Jixala interrupted. "Yes, we know. Those poor humans. They should have stayed in their own solar system where it was safe." More laughter, more jokes. Ambassadors started making bets on how long Earth would survive. Some said 3 days, others said 5. Few optimistic souls said maybe a full week if the humans were lucky. Zexter slammed his claws on the platform. The sharp sound echoed through the chamber. The laughter stopped. "You are all fools," he said, his voice low and dangerous. "Every single one of you." Council leader Vorn's good mood vanished. His tentacles coiled defensively. "Ambassador Zexter, watch your tone. We understand you have become fond of the humans during your visits to Earth, but sentiment does not change facts. Earth has 300 outdated warships. The Krell Empire has 5,000 of the most advanced battleships in the galaxy. This is not a war. It is an execution." Zexter's eyes, all 3 of them, narrowed. "You think the humans are weak because they are peaceful. You think they are easy prey because they smile and trade fairly. You think they are harmless because they have not tried to conquer anyone. He paused and looked around the room slowly. You are wrong. Dangerously. Wrong. Ambassador Jigsaw crossed her forearms. And why is that? Please, enlighten us. What makes the humans so special? Zexthar's scales began to turn red now. Red meant aggression in his species. Red meant he was ready to fight. Because I have been to Earth, he said quietly. I have walked among the humans. I have studied their history. And I learned something. That terrifies me. The chamber grew quiet again. But this time, it was not the silence before laughter. It was the silence before something terrible. Humans are the only species in the galaxy that survived on a death world, Zexar continued. Their planet tried to kill them with ice ages, with volcanoes, with asteroid impacts, with diseases. And the humans did not just survive, they thrived. They multiplied, they conquered their entire planet. He pointed at the hologram of Earth. That beautiful blue planet. It is a graveyard. 99% of all species that ever lived there are now extinct. But humans survived. Do you know? Why, no one answered. Because humans do not give up, ever. When they face extinction, they adapt. When they face enemies, they learn. When they face impossible odds, they find a way to win. Zexthar's voice dropped to almost a whisper. The Krell think they are hunting prey, but they are wrong. They are waking up a predator that has been sleeping. And when that predator opens its eyes, ... double quotes, he did not finish the sentence. He did not need to. Across the chamber, a few ambassadors stopped smiling. A few started to look worried, but most still thought Zextar was overreacting. On the main screen, a new message appeared. 'Twas from Krell Space. Supreme Commander Throck had sent a galaxy-wide broadcast. His message was simple and brutal. Earth will surrender or burn. They have 12 hours to decide. The Krell Armada is already on its way. The image showed 5,000 Krell warships jumping into hyperspace, the largest military fleet assembled in 20 years. All heading toward one small blue planet. Council leader Vorn turned to Zextar. Well, Ambassador, I suppose we will. Know soon enough if you are right or if you are simply being dramatic. Zextar looked at the screen showing the Krell fleet. His scales turned completely black. I pray to the old gods that I am wrong, he said softly. Because if I am right, the Krell Empire just made the biggest mistake in galactic history. He turned and walked toward the exit. Where are you going? Vorn called after him. Zextar stopped at the door. He did not turn around. As far from Earth as possible. I do not want to be anywhere near this system when the humans respond. And neither should you. The door closed behind him with a final, ominous sound. In the council chamber, the laughter had completely died. Earth's moon hung silent in the black sky. On its dark side, hidden from view, something massive began to move. Commander Sarah Way stood in the underground bunker beneath the Gobi Desert. The bunker was 5 miles deep. Most people did not know it existed. It had been built 70 years ago during the first contact preparations, back when humanity realized they were not alone in the universe. Sarah looked at the red alert flashing. On every screen, her hands were steady. She had trained for this moment her entire life. She had hoped it would never come. Status report, she said calmly. Lieutenant Park spoke without looking up from his console. Krell fleet detected at the edge of our solar system. 5,000 warships. They will reach Earth orbit in 11 hours and 42 minutes. Our fleet position. All 300 defense ships are moving into formation around Earth. They are ready to fight. Sarah closed her eyes for a moment. 300 ships against 5,000. The math was simple. Earth would lose. But Sarah smiled anyway. "Good," she said. "Let them see our defense fleet. Let them count our ships. Let them think they have already won." Lieutenant Park finally looked up. His young face showed confusion. "Commander, I do not understand. Should we not evacuate?" "Should we not, Lieutenant?" Sarah interrupted gently. "Do you know why I volunteered for this position?" Park shook his head. "Because my grandmother told me stories. Stories about the Second World War. Stories about a time when the whole world was on fire. She told me about a British leader who said something important." Sarah's voice became stronger. "He said, 'We shall fight on the beaches.' Okay, we shall fight on the landing grounds. We shall never surrender." And they did not surrender. They won. She walked to the main console and entered her command codes. "Humanity has been preparing for this day since we first left Earth. We knew someone out there would see us as weak. Someone would try to conquer us, so we prepared. Not in the open where spies could see, but in secret, in the shadows. In places like this." Sarah pressed a final button. "Activate Protocol Midnight." The bunker suddenly came alive with sound. Alarms, machine hum. The rumble of something enormous waking up. Lieutenant Park's screen lit up with hundreds of new signals. His mouth fell open. "Commander, ... these readings. They cannot be real." "They are very real, Lieutenant. Welcome to humanity's real military." Across Earth, similar scenes played out in 70 different locations. Hidden bases that had been sleeping for decades suddenly activated. In the Amazon rainforest, massive doors opened in what tourists thought was just another hill. In Antarctica, beneath 2 miles of ice, fusion reactors powered up. In the Pacific Ocean, underwater construction. Yards released ships that had been built in complete secrecy. On Mars, in the Valles Marineris Canyon, the largest construction project in human history revealed itself. For 30 years, humanity had been telling the galaxy they were building mining colonies on Mars. That was a lie. They had been building a shipyard, and that shipyard had been busy. President Chen sat in the White House Situation Room. Every screen showed different parts of Earth's defense network coming online. She looked tired. She had not slept in 2 days. "Madame President," General Hayes said carefully. "Are you absolutely certain about this? Protocol Midnight was meant to be our last resort. If we reveal everything now, we lose our greatest advantage, surprise." President Chen turned to face the general. Her eyes were hard as steel. "General, the Krell sent us an ultimatum. Surrender or die. They did not ask for negotiations. They did not ask for peace talks. They decided to destroy us before even speaking. With us." She stood up and walked to the window. Outside, she could see people going about their normal lives. They did not know yet. In a few hours, everyone would know. "My grandfather fought in a war long ago," Chen said quietly. "A war where people had to make impossible choices. He told me something I never forgot. He said, 'Peace is not the absence of the ability to wage war. Peace is the choice not to, even when you can.'" She turned back to the room. "For 50 years, we have chosen peace. We have been kind to our galactic neighbors. We have traded fairly. We have helped those who asked for help. And what did that kindness earn us? An invasion fleet?" General Hayes nodded slowly. "So we show them what we really are." "No," Chen corrected. "We show them what we have always been. Survivors. Earth is a death world, General. Most aliens cannot even breathe our air without filters. Our gravity would crush them. Our diseases would kill them. Our weather would terrify them. But humans, we were born here. We were forged here. In the ice, in the heat, in the storms, in the wars we fought against each other." She walked back to the main console. The Krell think they are invading a weak planet. They are wrong. They are invading the most dangerous planet in the galaxy, and they are about to learn why every single creature that ever threatened humanity on Earth is now extinct. President. Chen pressed her palm against the authorization pad. Activate all defense platforms. Wake up the Mars fleet, power up the Luna weapons, and send a message to the Krell commander. What message, Madam President? Chen's smile was cold and terrible. Tell him you have made a mistake. You still have time to turn around. This is your only warning. Lieutenant Kim, the communications officer, looked worried. Ma'am, they will not listen. They will think we are bluffing. I know, Chen said. But 50 years from now, when historians ask if we gave them a chance, the answer will be yes. We gave them a chance. They chose war. On the dark side of the moon, the thing that had begun to move was now fully awake. It was called the Luna Array, a weapon system so powerful that its existence had been kept secret from everyone, including most of Earth's own government. It had been built by a team of scientists who understood one simple truth: hope for peace. But prepare for war. The Luna Array's sensors locked onto the approaching Krell fleet. In the Krell flagship, Supreme Commander. Throck received Earth's warning message. He read it once, then he laughed. They are trying to scare us with words, he told his officers. Typical behavior of weak prey animals. Ignore their message. Continue the attack. In 12 hours, Earth will be ours. His officers cheered. They did not know they had just sealed their fate. Back on Earth, in the Gobi Desert bunker, Commander Sarah Wei watched her screens. Everything was ready. Every weapon, every ship, every soldier. Lieutenant Park spoke in a whisper. Commander, are we really going to win this? Sarah did not answer right away. She thought about her grandmother's stories. She thought about all the times in human history when victory seemed impossible. And yet, somehow, humans had won. Lieutenant, she finally said, let me tell you something about humans. We are not the strongest species. We are not the smartest. We are not the fastest. But we are the most stubborn. When someone tells us we cannot win, we take it as a challenge. She smiled. The Krell are about to learn what happens when you challenge a human. And it is a lesson they will never forget. The countdown began. 11 hours until the Krell fleet arrived. 11 hours until the galaxy learned the truth about Earth. 11 hours until everything changed. Asterix Supreme Commander Throck stood on the bridge of his flagship. The Crimson Fang, through the massive viewing window, he could see his fleet stretched across space like a metal ocean. 5,000 warships. The pride of the Krell Empire. The most powerful military force in 3 galaxies. And ahead, barely visible as a small blue dot, was Earth. Throck's second in command, Captain Vrex, approached with a datapad. Commander, our scouts have completed their final scan of the target system. The humans have positioned their entire fleet in defensive formation around their planet. Exactly 312 ships. Throck's mandibles clicked together. The Krell equivalent of laughter. 300 ships against 5,000. Do they not understand basic mathematics? Perhaps they hope we will show mercy. Commander. Mercy is for the weak, Throck growled. Begin the attack formation. I want this finished before the galactic news networks even arrive. A quick, clean victory. The Krell fleet moved forward like a swarm of predators. Their formation was perfect. Every ship in its exact position. They had practiced this attack pattern on 17 different conquered worlds. It never failed. Earth grew larger in the viewing window. Throck could see the human ships now. Small. Outdated. Pathetic. Charge all weapons, Throck commanded. Target their defense grid first. then their orbital stations. Then we will demand their surrender. Commander, the sensor officer suddenly called out. I am detecting unusual energy readings from their ships. No, sir, from their satellites. Throck waved a dismissive claw. Satellites cannot harm us. Continue the attack. The Krell fleet crossed into Earth's orbital space. Weapons charged. Shields glowed bright with power. Victory was seconds away. Then the satellites opened fire. What Throck thought were communication satellites suddenly bloomed with weapon ports. Hundreds of them. Thousands of them. They had been disguised to look harmless, floating pieces of human technology that seemed innocent. They were not innocent. Laser beams, bright as young stars, cut through space. Railgun rounds, moving at impossible speeds, tore into Krell's shields. The satellites fired again and again, their weapon systems, far more advanced than anything in the intelligence reports. Shields holding, the defense officer reported. But, Commander, these are not civilian satellites. These are military weapon platforms. I can see that, Throck snarled. Return fire. Destroy them all. The Krell fleet fired back, explosive. Rounds and plasma beams destroyed the first wave of satellites, then the second wave. But for every satellite destroyed, it seemed like 2 more appeared. And then things got worse. From behind Earth's moon, new contacts appeared on the sensors. Ships, dozens of them. Then hundreds, then thousands. Captain Vrex stared at the screen in disbelief. That is impossible. Our intelligence said Earth only had 300 ships. I know what intelligence said. Throck roared. The new human ships were nothing like the old defense fleet still orbiting Earth. These ships were sleek. Fast, they moved through space like silver fish through water. And they were heading straight for the Krell fleet at speeds that should not be possible. Evasive maneuvers, Throck commanded. But the Krell fleet was too big, too slow, too confident in their formation. The human ships hit them like a hammer, hitting glass. The first human ship fired something the Krell had never seen before. Not a laser, not a plasma beam. It looked like a small star. When it hit a Krell battleship, the entire ship simply vanished. Gone, erased from existence. What was that? Vrex whispered. The sensor officer checked his readings 3 times before answering. Commander, that weapon appears to be a contained fusion reaction. They turned a star into a bullet. Throck felt something he had not felt in many years: fear. The human ships swarmed through the Krell formation. They moved in patterns that seemed random but were actually perfectly coordinated. They fired, dodged, and fired again. Every shot found its target. Every target exploded. A Krell destroyer tried to ram one of the human ships. The human ship simply moved to the side at the last second. The destroyer crashed into another Krell ship instead. Both exploded. This is not a battle, Captain Vrex said quietly. This is a massacre. Silence, Throck ordered. We still have superior numbers. Press the attack. All ships, full speed ahead. But the Krell fleet was already breaking apart. Ships collided with each other, trying to avoid the human weapons. Captains abandoned their positions in the formation to try to save themselves. The perfect military machine was becoming a panicked mob. On Earth, in the command center, Admiral Jackson watched the battle with cold, calculating eyes. Every move the Krell made, he had predicted. Every tactic they used, he had prepared for. Sir, a young officer said with excitement in her voice, we are winning. The Krell are retreating. No, Jackson said calmly. They are not retreating. Not yet. They are regrouping. This is just the first move in a long game. He pointed at the tactical display. See how their damaged ships are falling back? They are protecting them. That means their commander still thinks he can win. He still thinks this is just a temporary setback. Jackson leaned forward. Message to the hidden drone network. Do not activate yet. Let the Krell think they have seen all our surprises. Let them think they can adapt. But sir, we could end this now. Jackson shook his head. No, if we win too quickly, they will just send more ships, better ships, smarter commanders. But if we destroy them slowly, methodically, showing them each new weapon one at a time, then we break their spirit. We make them understand that fighting Earth is hopeless. He smiled, but it was not a kind smile. We do not just want to win this battle. We want to win every battle that comes after. We want the Krell to go home and tell every other species in the galaxy one simple message: never attack Earth. In space, the Krell fleet regrouped. They had lost 300 ships in the first engagement, 300 out of 5,000. It hurt, but it was not fatal. Commander Throke's confidence began to return. So the humans have better weapons than we thought. So they have more ships than intelligence reported. It does not matter. We still outnumber them 3-1. We can still win. He opened a communication channel to his entire fleet. Ships. Listen to me. The humans surprised us. They will not surprise us again. We know what they have now. We will adapt. We will overcome. We are Krell. We have conquered 17 worlds. We will conquer this one too. His fleet cheered. Morale lifted. They prepared for the second attack. What Commander Throck did not know was that the human ships he had just fought were not even Earth's main fleet. They were just the patrol ships. The real fleet was still waiting, and the weapons he had seen. Those were the old weapons, the ones humanity was willing to show. The new weapons, the terrible weapons. The weapons that broke the laws of physics and common sense. Those were still hidden. Admiral Jackson watched Throke's speech on the intercepted communications. He nodded slowly. He is brave, Jackson said. I respect that. But bravery without wisdom is just another word for foolishness. He gave the order. Release the Mars fleet. Let them see what humanity built while they thought we were just mining red rocks. From Mars orbit, something enormous began to move. A ship so large it had its own gravity field. A ship that had taken 20 years to build. A ship that most humans did not even know existed. Its name was the Prometheus. And it was about to introduce the Krell Empire to a new concept. Terror, Ambassador Zextor sat alone in his private quarters aboard the council station. He had not returned to the council chamber after his warning. What was the point? It was not listen. They never listened. His communication console beeped. It was an automated alert from the Galactic News Network. The battle at Earth had begun. Zextor did not want to watch. He had warned them. He had tried. But his curiosity, that terrible curiosity that made him a good ambassador, forced his hand toward the button. The screen flickered to life. What he saw made his 3 hearts stop beating for a moment. The Krell fleet was burning. Not all of it, not yet, but enough. Enough to know that something had gone terribly wrong with the Krell's perfect plan. Ships exploded in silent fury. Debris scattered across space like metal rain. And the human ships, those silver predators, moved through. The chaos like they owned the darkness. Zextor's door chimed. He almost ignored it. But then it chimed again, urgent, insistent. Enter, he said quietly. The door opened. 3 ambassadors stood there, young ones. Junior representatives who had laughed the loudest in the council chamber earlier. They did not look like they were laughing now. Ambassador Zextor, one of them, said, her voice shaking slightly. We need to see it. See what? The battle? You have access to the military feeds. Better cameras than the public news. We need to see what is really happening. Zexter looked at them for a long moment. Then he nodded. Come in, but I warn you, you will not like what you see. He switched his console to the military observation feeds. These cameras were positioned by automated probes scattered throughout the galaxy. They existed to watch for threats, to provide early warning of wars and invasions. The feed showed the battle in perfect, terrible detail. The young ambassadors watched in silence. One of them, a creature from a water world, began to change color. Blue to green to pale white. The color of shock. How? She whispered. How are the humans doing this? On the screen, a human ship no bigger than a Krell fighter somehow disabled a Krell battleship 20 times its size. The human ship fired something that looked like a net made of pure energy. The net wrapped around the battleship and squeezed. The battleship's shields collapsed. Then its hull cracked. Then it broke apart like a toy in a child's angry hands. I do not know, Zexter admitted. Human technology was supposed to be primitive, decades behind ours. Either our intelligence was wrong or the humans have been lying to us for 50 years. Another explosion on the screen. Bigger this time. A Krell carrier, massive and powerful, simply ceased to exist. One moment it was there. The next moment, only expanding gas and scattered metal remained. The young ambassadors looked at each other with growing fear. Should we tell the council? One asked. They already know, a voice said from the doorway. Council leader Vorn stood there. His tentacles hung limp. His usual confidence was gone. He looked old, tired. The entire council is watching, Vorn said as he entered the room without asking permission. Every ambassador, every aide, every military advisor. We are all watching the Krell Empire die. Zexter gestured to an empty seat. Vorn collapsed into it. You tried to warn us, Vorn said. It was not a question. It was a confession. I did. Why did you not try harder? Why did you not make us listen? Zexthor's scales shifted to a sad gray color. Would you have listened if I had shown you videos? If I had brought human history books? If I had explained every detail of why humans are dangerous? Would any of it have mattered? Vorn was silent. No, Zexthor continued. You would have found reasons to dismiss it. You would have said I was exaggerating. You would have said I was too close to the humans. You would have said I had lost my objectivity. On the screen, another wave of human ships appeared. These ones were different, larger. They moved slower, but with absolute certainty. When they fired, entire sections of the Krell fleet simply stopped working. Ships went dark. Life support failed. Weapons powered down. What are they doing? One of the young ambassadors asked. Zexthor studied the screen. Electromagnetic pulse weapons, I think. They are not trying to destroy those ships. They are disabling them, taking them as prisoners. Why? Vorn asked. Why show mercy now? Because humans understand something we forgot, Zexthor said. Prisoners can go home. Prisoners can tell stories. Prisoners can warn others. Dead enemies tell no tales. The implication hung in the air like poison gas. Across the council station, in the Great Chamber, the emergency session had reconvened. But no one was talking about trade agreements or border disputes anymore. Every screen showed the same thing. The battle at Earth. Ambassador Jixala, who had laughed so hard earlier, now sat very still. All four of her arms were crossed defensively across her chest. We need to send peacekeepers, she said quietly, to help the Krell. Someone asked. No, to help whoever survives. This is not a battle. This is an execution. Another ambassador stood up. He was from a species that had been conquered by the Krell 200 years ago. His people still paid tribute every year. He looked at the screen with an expression that was hard to read. Was it satisfaction? Horror? Both. The Krell told my people that resistance was futile, he said. They told us that their military was unstoppable. They told us that anyone who fought back would be destroyed completely. He pointed at the screen. I think the Krell finally found someone who did not believe them. On Zexthar's private screen, the view changed. The camera focused on something new, emerging from behind Earth's moon. Something enormous. Something that made the Krell flagship look like a child's toy in comparison. What is that? One of the young ambassadors whispered. Zexthar checked the sensor data flowing beneath the video. His scales went completely black. The color of absolute terror. That, he said slowly, is a human dreadnought. And according to these readings, it has enough firepower to crack a planet. Warren leaned forward. Crack a planet. That is illegal. The Galactic Conventions specifically forbid the humans never signed the Galactic Conventions, Zexthar interrupted. We invited them to. They refused. Said they wanted to study them first. We thought they were being cautious. Now I understand. They were being smart. The dreadnought fired. Not at the Krell fleet. At an asteroid floating in Earth's orbital space. A test shot. The asteroid was approximately 2 miles wide. Solid iron and rock. Dense and ancient. The beam from the dreadnought hit it for exactly 3 seconds. The asteroid turned into dust. Every ambassador watching went completely silent. Across species, across languages, across cultures, they all understood what they had just witnessed. They had just seen a weapon that could end worlds, and the humans had built it in secret while pretending to be weak. We need to contact Earth, Vorn said urgently. We need to negotiate peace before what? Zexthar asked. Before the humans win. They have already won. This battle ended the moment the Krell crossed into Earth's solar system. Happening now. This is just the humans teaching the galaxy a lesson. What lesson? Zexthar turned off the screen. He could not watch any more. The lesson that humans learned millions of years ago when they were still primitive creatures fighting with stone weapons. The lesson that let them survive when everything else on their planet died. The lesson that made them the dominant species on a world that tried very hard to kill them. He looked at each of them in turn. Never corner a predator. Never threaten its home, and never ever assume that kindness means weakness. In the council chamber, the betting had stopped. No one was guessing how long Earth would survive anymore. They were guessing how much of the Krell fleet would survive, and the numbers kept getting smaller. Asterisk deep beneath the Atlantic Ocean. A facility existed that no map showed. It was built inside an underwater trench 7 miles below the surface. The pressure at that depth could crush a battleship, but humanity had learned to build in impossible places. Dr. Marcus Chen stood in the central operations room, watching holographic displays float in the air around him. He was not a soldier. He was a scientist. A theoretical physicist who had spent 30 years designing weapons he hoped would never be used. Today, all his nightmares were coming true, and somehow he felt strangely calm. Dr. Chen, a voice, called from across the room. It was Captain Rivera, the military liaison assigned to the facility. Admiral Jackson is requesting activation of the swarm protocol. Chen's hands paused over his console. The swarm protocol. Of all his designs, that one kept him awake at night. Not because it did not work, but because it worked too well. Are we at that stage already? Chen asked. Rivera pulled up a tactical display. The Krell sent a message to their homeworld 40 minutes ago. They are requesting reinforcements. Intelligence suggests another 10,000 ships are being prepared. Chen closed his eyes. 10,000 more ships. The Krell were not learning. They were doubling down on their mistake. "Very well," he said quietly. "Activate swarm protocol. May whatever gods exist forgive us." His fingers danced across the holographic interface. Deep in the ocean trench, massive doors began to open. Inside, things that had been sleeping in the cold darkness began to wake up. They were called hornets. Each one was no bigger than a human hand. They looked like silver insects with wings made of folded metal. Cute, almost harmless. They were not harmless. 50,000 hornets launched from the underwater facility. They rose through 7 miles of ocean without disturbing a single fish. They broke through the surface without making a splash. And then they flew toward space on tiny fusion engines that should not have been possible to build at that size. In Earth's orbital command center, Admiral Jackson watched the hornets appear on his tactical display. 50,000 tiny dots rising. "From the ocean, sir," Lieutenant Barnes said nervously. "Are you sure about this?" "The swarm protocol has never been tested in actual combat." Jackson did not look away from the display. "It has been tested 1,000 times in simulation. Every scenario, every variable, it works." "But sir, the ethical concerns—" "I am aware of the ethical concerns," Lieutenant Jackson said sharply. Then his voice softened. "Do you think I sleep well at night, knowing what we've built? Do you think any of us do?" But the Krell made their choice. They brought war to our home. Now they will see what war really means when humans fight back. The Hornets reached space in 17 minutes. They were too small for the Krell sensors to detect individually. The sensors saw them as space debris, scattered fragments from destroyed satellites. By the time the Krell realized what they were, it was too late. Supreme Commander Throck was still trying to reorganize his fleet when the first reports came in. "Sir, we have lost contact with ships in Sector 7. "What do you mean, lost contact?" "I mean they are not responding, sir. Their engines are offline. Life support is failing. It is like something shut them down." Throck pulled up the display. 12 ships in Sector 7, all going dark within seconds of each other. Not destroyed, not exploding, just ... stopping. "Send a repair team too, sir. We are losing ships in Sector 9 now, and Sector 4 and Sector 12. They are dropping like flies." On the bridge view screen, Throck could finally see what was happening. His blood went cold. The small silver things were swarming over his ships, hundreds of them on each vessel. They were not attacking the hulls. They were not firing weapons. They were doing something far worse. They were crawling into the ships, into engine ports, into weapon systems, into life support vents. Anywhere there was an opening, the Hornets found it. And once inside, they began to dismantle everything. Not randomly, methodically. They knew exactly which systems to disable first. A Krell battleship tried to use its point defense lasers to shoot the Hornets. The lasers destroyed maybe 50 of them, but there were thousands. While the ship was busy shooting at the Hornets outside, more Hornets were already inside, eating through the targeting computer's wiring. The lasers stopped working. Then the shields failed. Then the engines died. Then the lights went out. Captain Vrex stared at the tactical display in horror. "They are not trying to destroy us. They are taking our ships apart, piece by piece, like insects stripping meat from bones." "How do we stop them?" Throck demanded. I do not know, sir. Our weapons are designed to fight ships, not tiny machines. We cannot target them effectively. And they are inside the ships now. Even if we could shoot them all, we would have to shoot through our own hulls." Throck watched as his fleet, the pride of the Krell Empire, was systematically disabled. Not in glorious battle, not in honorable combat, but by tiny silver insects that could not be fought, could not be stopped, could not be reasoned with. He realized something then, something terrible. The humans were not just fighting a war. They were sending a message. Every weapon they used was designed not just to win, but to terrify. To show the galaxy that humanity had thought of everything, had prepared for everything, had built contingencies upon contingencies, the fusion bombs that erased ships from existence. Said, "We can destroy you instantly." The EMP weapons that disabled vessels said, "We can take you prisoner without killing you." The dreadnought that turned asteroids to dust said, "We can break planets if we choose." And now the Hornet said, "We can. Take everything you have, piece by piece, and you cannot stop us." Each weapon was a lesson. Each victory was a warning. Sir Vrex said quietly. "Perhaps we should consider no," Throck snarled. "I will not speak that word. I will not consider it. Reinforcements are coming." "We will look at the numbers, Commander," Vrex shouted. It was the first time he had ever raised his voice to a superior officer. "We came here with 5,000 ships. We have lost half of them. Half. And we have barely damaged the human forces. When the reinforcements arrive, what makes you think the result will be any different?" Throke's mandibles clicked in anger, but he could not argue with the mathematics. On Earth, Dr. Chen watched his Hornets work with mixed feelings. Pride in his creation, horror at what it was doing, relief that it was protecting his home, guilt that he had made something so terrible. Captain Rivera said, "We are receiving a transmission. It is on an open channel, from the Krell flagship." "What does it say?" Rivera hesitated. "It is a question. They are asking ... They are asking what it would take for us to stop." Chen looked at the holographic display. The Krell fleet was in ruins. Ships drifted powerless. Others burned. Some fled. It was chaos and destruction on a scale he had never imagined witnessing. "Patch me through to Admiral Jackson," Chen said. A moment later, Jackson's face appeared on the screen. "Dr. Chen, what can I do for you?" "Admiral, the Krell are asking what it would take for us to stop. Are we ... Are we going to tell them?" Jackson was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "Yes. We are going to tell them. We are going to tell them exactly what it costs to attack Earth. What is the price?" Jackson's expression was carved from stone. Surrender. Complete and unconditional. The Krell reinforcement fleet turns around and goes home. Every Krell ship leaves our solar system immediately. And they take a message back to their empire. A message for every species in the galaxy. What message? That Earth offered peace. That Earth wanted friendship. That Earth chose kindness for 50 years. But when the Krell rejected all of that and brought war to our doorstep, Earth showed them the truth. Jackson leaned forward, his eyes hard and unforgiving. The truth that humans are the most dangerous species in the galaxy precisely because we chose not to be until someone forced our hand. High Admiral Crax stood in the command chamber of his flagship, the Iron Eclipse. Around him, 10,000 warships prepared for the jump to Earth. The reinforcement fleet, the largest military force the Krell Empire had assembled in 50 years. Crax was old by Krell standards. He had fought in 30 campaigns, won 29. Of them, he was a legend. A warrior whose name was taught to young cadets as an example of perfection. And he was absolutely furious. Supreme Commander Throck called for help, Crax said to his assembled officers. He called for help fighting a species that barely knows how to build a proper warship. This is embarrassing. This is shameful. A junior officer spoke up nervously. "Sir, the reports from the front lines suggest the humans are more dangerous than we." Crax's claw slammed down on the table. "I have read the reports. I have seen the footage. Do you know what I see? I see a commander who panicked, who lost his nerve, Who let his fleet fall apart because he was not strong enough to lead them? He pointed at the star map showing Earth's location. When we arrive, we will crush the humans in one overwhelming assault. No tactics, no clever strategies, just pure, brutal force. We will show Throck how a real admiral fights. The officers cheered. Morale was high. They believed in Cracks. They trusted him. That was their first mistake. The jump to Earth took 6 hours. When they emerged from hyperspace, the reinforcement fleet took up a formation that stretched for thousands of miles. Ship after ship after ship, a metal wall that seemed impossible to breach. Cracks looked at the tactical display with satisfaction. There, that is how you project power. Not with fear, not with tricks, but with numbers that cannot be denied. Sir, the sensor officer reported, we are detecting the remains of Commander Throke's fleet. Approximately 2,300 ships are still operational, but most are heavily damaged. And the human forces? The officer hesitated. Sir, we are having difficulty getting an accurate count. Their ships move in unpredictable patterns. Our sensors keep losing track of them. Current estimate is between 4,000 and 6,000 active vessels. Cracks nodded. So we outnumber them at least 2 to 1. Perfect odds. What Cracks did not know was that the sensor officer's count was wrong. Very wrong. The humans had learned something from their encounters with other alien species. They had learned that most aliens relied too heavily on their sensors. So humans had built ships that lied to sensors. Ships that appeared as 2 contacts when there was only one. Ships that disappeared completely when they wanted to hide. Ships that made sensor readings useless. The actual number of human ships in the system was closer to 15,000, but Cracks did not know that. All ships Cracks broadcast to his fleet. Advance at full speed. Maintain tight formation. We will hit the human lines like a hammer. Overwhelm them with our numbers. Them, the true might of the Krell Empire. The reinforcement fleet moved forward. Slow, steady, inevitable. Like a glacier of metal and fire. On the human command ship. Admiral Jackson watched the Krell approach. He took a sip of coffee. His hands were completely steady. They're using the hammer formation, Lieutenant Barnes observed. Dense concentration of forces. Maximum firepower focused on a single breakthrough point. Jackson nodded. It is a good strategy. Against a conventional enemy, it would work perfectly. Break through at one point, then roll up the flanks. Classic. But sir, we are not a conventional enemy. No, Jackson agreed. We are not. He pulled up a holographic display that showed the entire solar system. Little red dots marked human positions. There were far more dots than the Krell could possibly know about. Lieutenant, do you know why humanity survived on Earth when so many other species went extinct, sir? Adaptability. When the climate changed, we adapted. When predators hunted us, we adapted. When diseases tried to kill us, we adapted. We never fought the same way twice. We never made the same mistake twice. Jackson pointed at the Krell fleet advancing in its perfect formation. The Krell are making the same mistake Throck made. They are assuming we will fight the way we fought before. They are preparing for the weapons we already showed them. They think they learned our lessons. He smiled coldly. They have no idea we have a dozen more lessons to teach. Jackson gave the order. Activate the asteroid field trap. For months, human engineers had been secretly placing small engines on asteroids throughout the solar system. Not big engines, just small ones. Enough to nudge the asteroids. To change their orbits slightly. The Krell fleet was advancing through what they thought was empty space. Their sensors had mapped every asteroid, every piece of debris, every spatial anomaly. Everything was accounted for. Then the asteroids started moving. Hundreds of them. thousands of them, each one the size of a building, some larger. They had been drifting slowly, harmlessly. They suddenly accelerated. They're hidden. Engines firing at full power. The Krell fleet tried to dodge. But they were in tight formation. The hammer formation, designed for concentrated attack, not for maneuverability. An asteroid the size of a mountain slammed into a Krell battleship. The ship's shields held for almost 2 seconds. Then they collapsed. The asteroid kept going, carrying the ruined ship. With it into 3 more vessels behind it. Evasive maneuvers. Cracks shouted. But it was too late. The formation was too tight. Ships crashed into each other, trying to avoid the asteroids. Some fired their weapons at the incoming rocks. Only 2. Have the debris scatter and hit other ships. The perfect military formation became a disaster zone, and while the Krell were focused on the asteroids, the human ships attacked. They came from above and below, from angles the Krell were not watching. They had been hiding in the asteroids themselves, their signatures masked by the rocks. Now they emerged like hunters springing a trap. The human ships did not fight fair. They targeted damaged vessels. They struck at ships that were already trying to dodge asteroids. They fired and then disappeared back into the chaos before the Krell could return fire. On the Iron Eclipse, Krax watched his perfect plan fall apart in real time. How, he demanded. How did they move the asteroids? That would require engines on every single rock. That would require years of preparation. They could not have known we would attack. They could not have understanding hit him like a physical blow. They did know. Or rather, they prepared for every possibility. The humans had been preparing for an attack like this since the day they entered space. They had looked at their solar system and asked themselves, how do we turn our own home into a fortress? How do we turn every rock, every moon, every planet into a weapon? And then they had spent 50 years doing exactly that. Captain Vrex's damaged ship was close enough to see the Iron Eclipse on visual. He opened a channel to Krax. Hi, Admiral, Vrex said quietly. I've tried to warn Commander Throck. Now I will warn you. Retreat, retreat now while you still can. The humans are not like us. They do not think like us. They do not fight like us. Do not take orders from cowards, Krax snarled. I am not a coward, Rex replied calmly. I am a survivor. And I have learned something fighting the humans. They are always 3 steps ahead. Whatever you see them doing now, they planned it months ago. Whatever you plan to do next, they have already prepared a counter for it. Impossible. No species can predict everything. The humans can, because they do not try to predict what we will do. They prepare for everything we might do. Every option, every choice, every strategy. They built redundancies on top of contingencies, on top of backup. Plans. Vrex's image flickered as another explosion rocked his ship. You wanted to show them overwhelming force. They are showing you something worse. Perfect preparation. The channel went dead. Krax stared at the tactical display. His fleet was losing. His perfect formation was destroyed. His ships were dying. And somewhere in the back of his mind, a small voice whispered a terrible truth. The humans were still holding back. They had not used their dreadnought yet. They had not used whatever other nightmares they had built in secret. This was not humanity's full strength. This was just a warning. Asterisk. The battle ended not with a bang, but with silence. High Admiral Krax's flagship, the Iron Eclipse, drifted in space with its engines dead. Around it, the wreckage of 2 fleets told the story of what happened when arrogance met preparation. Inside, the Iron Eclipse Krax sat in his command chair. His armor was scorched. His pride was shattered. Before him stood a holographic image of Admiral Jackson. You fought well, Jackson said. There was no mockery in his voice. No triumph. Just a statement of fact. Krax's mandibles clicked slowly. A Krell sign of defeat. I underestimated you. We all did. Yes, Jackson agreed simply. What happens now? Do you destroy the rest of my fleet? Do you invade our homeworld? Do you take your revenge? Jackson was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his words were measured and careful. Hi, Admiral. Let me tell you a story. 300 years ago on Earth, there was a great war. The most terrible war my species had ever fought. Cities burned, millions died. When it ended, the winners had a choice. They could punish the losers forever, or they could help them rebuild. Krax listened. They chose to rebuild. And do you know what happened? The nations that lost that war became some of Earth's strongest allies. Some of our closest friends, because humans learned something important. Today's enemy can become tomorrow's partner. If you give them the chance. Jackson leaned forward. We do not want to destroy the Krell Empire. We want you to go home. We want you to remember what happened here. And we want you to tell every species in the galaxy the truth. What truth? That Earth seeks peace, but Earth is prepared for war. That humans will trade fairly and help generously. But humans will also defend themselves without mercy. That kindness should never be mistaken for weakness. Krax's claws scraped against his armrest. And if we refuse these terms, if the Krell Empire decides to continue this war, Jackson's expression hardened. Then we will show you weapons you have not seen yet. We'll show you that everything we use today was just the beginning. We will show you that human creativity has no limit when it comes to protecting our home. He paused. But I do not think you will refuse, because you are a smart commander, a survivor, and survivors know when to stop fighting. The hologram flickered off. Krax sat in darkness for a long time. Then he opened a channel to what remained of his fleet. All Krell ships. This is High Admiral Krax. We are withdrawing from Earth space immediately. Set course for home. The war is over. The response from his officers was silence. Then, slowly, acknowledgments came in. They were tired, they were beaten. They were ready to go home. Supreme Commander Throk's damaged ship joined the retreat. He looked older somehow. A war. Did that? It aged you in ways that time alone could not. We will return, Throk said to Krax on a private channel. Someday, when we are stronger, when we have better weapons. We will know. Krax interrupted firmly. We will not. Do you know why? Why? Because today we saw only a fraction of what the humans can do. They have a dreadnought that can crack planets. They used it once to destroy an asteroid. Once to show us what it could do. But they did not use it on our ships. Do you know why? Throk was silent. Because they did not need. 2. They had already won. Everything they showed us, every weapon, every tactic, every strategy, they did it to teach us. Not to destroy us, to teach us. Krax's voice became quiet, and I learned the lesson. The humans are apex predators, pretending to be peaceful. And the only reason we are alive right now is because they chose to let us live. At the Galactic Council station, every screen showed the Krell retreat. Ships limping away from Earth, damaged, defeated. Humiliated. Ambassador Zexther stood before the full council. He did not look triumphant. He looked sad. I told you, he said simply. I warned you all, but you did not listen. Council leader Vorn's tentacles hung limp with shame. We apologize, Ambassador Zexther. We should have trusted your judgment. We should have taken your warning seriously. Another ambassador raised a tentacle. What do we do now? Earth has proven itself the strongest military power in the galaxy. What if they decide to conquer us? What if they use their power too? They will not, Zextor interrupted. That is what you still do not understand about humans. They do not want to rule the galaxy. They just want to be left alone to live their lives. He pulled up an image of Earth on the main screen. That beautiful blue planet, so small and peaceful looking. But if you threaten them, they will remind you why they are the only species that conquered a death world. Not by luck, not by accident, but through determination, creativity, and an absolute refusal to give up. The Council voted. It was unanimous. Earth would receive a permanent seat on the Galactic Council. Not because they asked for it, because everyone agreed they had earned it. More than that, they deserved it. The Krell Empire would pay reparations for the unprovoked attack. They would formally apologize. And they would accept restrictions on their military for the next century. But more important than any official ruling was the unofficial message that spread through the galaxy in the days that followed. A message passed from species to species, from world to world, from parent to child. Do not attack Earth, ever. On Earth, President Chen addressed the planet. Billions of people watched. Some had known about the secret weapons. Most had not. They were shocked, scared, proud, confused, all at once. My fellow humans, Chen said. Today we revealed our true strength to the galaxy. We did it not because we wanted to, but because we had no choice. The Krell forced our hand. She paused, choosing her words carefully. For 50 years, we hid our weapons. We pretended to be weaker than we were. Some of you might wonder why. Why did we lie? Why did we not show our strength from the beginning? Chen smiled sadly. Because we know our own history. We know what happens when power is displayed openly. It creates fear, and fear creates conflict. We wanted to join the galactic community as friends, not as conquerors. We wanted to be trusted, not feared. But now the galaxy knows the truth. They know we have weapons that can break planets. They know we have technology they cannot match. They know we can defend ourselves against any threat. So what happens next? Chen's voice became stronger. We returned to who we were. We continued to trade fairly. We continued to share knowledge. We continued to explore the stars with wonder and curiosity. We continue to be humans. But now, we do it with the confidence that comes from knowing we can protect ourselves. We do it knowing that our kindness is a choice, not a weakness. She raised her hand in a gesture of peace. To the galaxy watching this broadcast, Earth's door is still open. Come to us in peace, and you will find friends. Come to us in trade, and you will find honest partners. Come to us for help, and you will find generous allies. Her expression hardened, but come to us with war, and you will find something else entirely. You will find the species that survived the Ice Age, the Black Death, and 2 world wars. You will find the species that turned a death world into a garden. You will find humanity. And you will regret it. The broadcast ended across the galaxy. Leaders watched and understood. Earth was not a target anymore. Earth was a fortress. A friend if you wanted friendship. It's an enemy you could never defeat if you chose war. In his private quarters, Ambassador Zextor poured himself a drink. Something humans had introduced him 2 years ago. Whiskey, they called it. It burned going down. He liked that a message came through on his console. It was from Earth, from President Chen personally. Thank you for trying to warn them, the message said. You were a true friend to humanity. We will not forget that. Zextor smiled. His scales turned a warm gold color, the color of contentment. He had been right. He had known the truth about humans all along, and now, finally, The galaxy knew it too. The humans were awake now. The predator had opened its eyes. The galaxy would never be the same. But perhaps Zexter thought that was not such a bad thing. Perhaps the galaxy needed a predator that chose not to hunt. Perhaps it needed a species strong enough to keep the peace simply by existing. He raised his glass in a private toast. To humanity, he said quietly. May they never have to show their teeth again. But may the galaxy never forget that they have them outside his window. The stars shone bright and beautiful. The universe was vast and full of dangers. But somewhere in that vastness, a small blue planet, a species of survivors stood guard, and the galaxy slept a little safer knowing they were there. Asterisk.